Today's review is of a new commentary series by Kregel Academic, and that is Hebrews. The series is the Kerux Commentary series. Now, I'm going to review more commentaries on this channel as we go along, and I want to warn my regular reviewers that when it comes to reviews of commentaries that are a part of a series, the reviews and the commentaries at times will be somewhat repetitive because what is true regarding the style, points of emphasis, and so forth will be consistent from commentary to commentary in a given series. And I'll need to mention those things in each review because I can't depend on people watching all of my previous reviews. So this video is about my thoughts on Hebrews by Herbert Bateman and Stephen Smith in the Kerux Commentary series. So my first thought on this is I don't like the title for the series, Kerux. I just don't think this is a good title. It's based on 1 Timothy 2:7 and Paul's testimony that he is a herald or a preacher of the gospel. But that word kerux is only used 3 times in the entire New Testament. I didn't know what the word meant until I looked it up, and I took 4 years of Greek. Naming your commentary series on a Greek word that's only used 3 times in the New Testament, and also, it's not obvious how you would pronounce this word in English. Living in New Orleans, I thought the X would be silent, so I had in my head been saying this was the Keru series. And another thing that I'm not a huge fan about the way this looks, I'm not a fan of wide books. This is a wider book. There are 2 columns on each page. Just not my favorite layout for when I'm reading it. Now, overall, I want to say I do like the structure of the content. So once you get inside and read it, I really like how it's laid out going from section to section, and I'll cover why I like that in just a moment. Welcome to Rev Reads. If you want to discover more books about the wonderful glory of the person of Jesus Christ, please subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with my latest book reviews. Also, like this video, share it with others to let them know about the Kerux Commentary series. The most affordable way to build your theological library today is through Logos Bible software. Follow the link in the description below to purchase your Logos edition of Hebrews, a commentary for preaching and teaching, or follow my link to become a subscriber to Logos and enjoy 60 days for free to be part of their massive library and get a part of their helpful Bible study tools. The Kerux Commentary series begins with an overview of all of the preaching passages that they'll cover in this book. So they'll tell you the exegetical idea, the theological focus, the preaching idea, and their pointers for each preaching section. I really like this right at the start because it allows me to know at the very beginning how helpful each chapter will be in my own sermon prep. What I mean is, in this commentary, they have one chapter covering Hebrews chapter 11, Hebrews 11, 1 through 40, which is the famous Hall of Faith. This means Bateman and Smith are going to present that chapter as if the preacher is going to preach through that entire chapter in a single Sunday. Now, if you're going to preach on that whole chapter in one Sunday, it's a big help for them to give to you to tackle that massive amount of material in a single sermon. But on the other hand, if you were going to go to Hebrews 11 and you're like, I'm going to take 10 weeks to dive into all the characters of Hebrews 11, then what you find here won't be the best help. And I think that overview is really helpful to see how this commentary is going to align with the portions that you're going to break up the book into for preaching. And also this allows you to have a second opinion on how to preach through this particular book of the Bible and break it up from section to section, sermon to sermon. Then you get into the commentary of this book, which starts with what I would call a standard introduction. I didn't really take issue with any of the views of Bateman and Smith in the introductions. In places where we disagree, I found our disagreements to be justifiable. The only thing that annoyed me about their introduction, and this didn't actually come out until the body of the commentary, is that the authors take Barnabas as the author of Hebrews. Now that's fine. I don't have a big deal with somebody taking Barnabas as the author. I think there's good arguments based on church history, but personally, I prefer to take the author of Hebrews as simply unknown. Now, I'm comfortable disagreeing with them on this, but they also refer to the author of this book as Barnabas all throughout the commentary. And so it occurs hundreds, maybe thousands of times of Barnabas wrote this, Barnabas had this view, Barnabas presented this, which, to be honest, can begin to grate on you a little bit if you disagree with their view on the author of the book. But I agreed with them pretty much everywhere else. I liked that they took an earlier date for the book of Hebrews, saw it occurring before AD 70. They also saw this book's purpose being to help Jewish believers who were tempted to return to Judaism. And I think those two, the dating of the book and then the purpose for it, those are most important for interpreting the book overall. And so I was really happy with the views they took there. When it comes to the individual chapters, they begin each chapter with, again, the exegetical idea, theological focus, preaching idea, and pointers that were found in the introductory pages. Then you have 1 to 3 paragraphs on the structure of the passage, followed by what is really the heart of it, and that is the exposition of the text. Following the exposition of the text, there are a couple of paragraphs on the theological focus of the passage as a whole. And then you have preaching and teaching strategies. So they help with an exegetical and theological synthesis of the passage, taking your exegesis and your theology of the passage and bringing it together. Then they provide you a suggestion for a preaching big idea. Then they help you make contemporary connections for the text, and then provide you with some insight for how to be creative in your presentation. So here's my opinion on what the authors present for all of those sections. When it comes to the commentary, some great, some not great places in the commentary section of the exposition. There are places where I'm right in line with them, and other places where I'm like, I wonder where I got that from. But most importantly for me, I found helpful points in every chapter, in every exposition section. So even if there were places where I disagreed with the author on 1 or 2 points of exegesis, there wasn't a chapter where I did not find at least something that was helpful. For instance, I really appreciated that they took the warnings of Hebrews as genuine warnings for believers. They didn't reason them away as threats that could never occur because we are all guaranteed to be faithful and persevere. There was no hint that if you were a genuine believer, there was no way that you could fall away. But I disagree with them, and when I think that the warnings of Hebrews are about temporal judgments from God. The authors even point out that the physical punishment was what the Israelites were threatened with in Hebrews 2:2. And I agree with that, and I believe we have the same, yet greater threats for falling away, threats of physical loss, threats of loss of temporal reward, of eternal reward for leaving and walking away from Christ. And while they said that the greater punishment against the Hebrews was eternal judgment or eternal condemnation, and I disagree with them there, I also found enough helpful in many other places where I did agree with them. I especially liked the format that they had for looking at differences in the Greek manuscripts. I side with the majority text more often than the authors of this book, but the format in which they presented their opinion for the best reading and then shared the manuscript evidence for both sides, I thought that that presentation was very helpful. And I found myself thinking, man, this is such a helpful, such an easy to read graphic. I can't believe more commentaries don't present textual issues in a very similar manner. And I hope the way it's found in this series takes off in other commentary series. On the help for preaching, I found it to be very up and down on whether or not it was helpful. At times, I found their suggestions for creativity and presentation to be excellent. At other times, I felt like the author was just taking the easy route of sharing a movie or a TV clip that you could also share with your church. And I felt like he did that too often. I would have liked a little bit more variety in helping me be creative in my presentation, so I expected a little bit more there. Overall, I found this to be a very helpful commentary. This is one that I will definitely read if I am preaching through Hebrews in the future, because even in the places where I disagree with the authors, I found their contributions to be reasonable. I found their handling of the text to be strong, to be conservative, and their suggestions for preaching were helpful probably 50 to 60% of the time. And I think that's a pretty good rate. So I gotta say, I plan on using and referring to this series more in the future, so you'll probably be seeing it more on Reverie.